Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. In today's First Impressions video, we are taking a look at the brand new L2 Prince MP5 lower with the Super Safety. There are no sponsors to the channel right now. You can help me out simply by hitting that subscribe button, ringing the bell, and commenting down below. The reason why I want you to comment is it's super motivating to put out a video you got a lot of time and effort into, and you see comments rolling in because it means, hey, there's actually real people watching what I put out. If you want to take it a step further, I do have a B channel. It's called FF Lifestyle. Action, non-gun related content over there, and I seriously would appreciate your help on that channel. It would mean the world to me. I'm trying to get it to 1,000, and if you want to diversify your subscription feed, that's the way to do it. It has been FRT freaking central here on my channel recently. Without a doubt, you have probably seen quite a few of these L2 Prince lowers and also just super safety stuff in general on YouTube these days. If you haven't already guessed it by now, these videos are obviously doing very, very well for most content creators out there, and everyone's like chomping at the bit to get the next big thing that's going to go big on YouTube. So I apologize for that. I have a lot of interest in these triggers, and I have a lot of interest in the MP5, so I wanted to get my hands on this. Of course, this video may or may not do well, but you guys know the deal. Everything I do on this channel is because I want to do it. Sometimes that aligns with the rest of the creators that are out there doing the same thing. Not really something that I can control. L2 Prince, though, full disclosure, did send me this trigger housing and trigger. I am going to talk positively and negatively about this. I reached out to them. I've spent a lot of money in the FRT world recently. Not a lot of it's went well. I don't really want to spend even more money, so am I able to get one for review? They were super cool. He said, yep, absolutely. I think we are on the forefront of FRT triggers. Like, we are right at the entryway of these triggers, and I think force reset style triggers are in their infancy, and at the moment, in my eyes, I view every example that I've gotten so far as a range toy. I really fought that in my head. I don't really want to think that. I want to think they're super viable, but in every single one, it just there's quirks. And you go into it understanding their quirks. It's nothing the same as like a bump stock. Obviously, those were total garbage. Binary triggers, again, total garbage, kind of worthless. FRTs are like right there. Is it the absolute coolest range thing you're going to have in a very long time and an absolute blast to shoot? Yes, 100%. Would I still buy one every time? Yes, 100%. I'm just telling you guys straight up, I would not bet my life on these components. That's just me. Now, when it comes to the L2 Prince Super Safety, they basically have a MP5 trigger housing here that can house an AR-15 style standard fire control group, and you have a normal push button Super Safety. In my experience so far, the Super Safety push button style has been the most reliable type of FRT trigger up until this point. It has been 100% the most reliable variation of this trigger, and the L2 Prince housing, surprisingly, has been the most fun and consistent so far. All of the other FRTs that I've tried in the full-size 5.56 variations have all been somewhat of a nightmare, fixed and working, but still like not 100% reliable. I do think the Super Safety is the way. Now, many of you can make all the assumptions that you want that the reason this is working correctly is because they sent me this for free, and I can't even argue that to you. There's no way I can prove that that's the case, but I have seen a lot more of these online, not in content creators' hands, that are working 100%. There's another company that is manufacturing these trigger housings, and those I don't really have any interest in. They are aluminum, but they don't look right on the guns. The reason I was so drawn to the L2 Prince one is because it looks like an MP5 fire control group. It is obviously 3D printed. You can see the print lines in the rear, but it is very, very well printed. You don't notice that it's been 3D printed at all. Wrapped it with a bit of goon tape, gave it some structure. It feels really good. Now, I went with the SEF style housing. I do wish in the future they had like, you know, an S and an E or something, or an SEF or something like that. When you go with this specific housing, it's just uncoated. There's no coloration to that. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but this is the style that I wanted to go with the SD. This is about $399 when it comes to having the trigger, the safety, the housing, everything. That is actually not bad. If you look at the price of just normal MP5 housings with the trigger in them, it's pretty inexpensive. Now, with that being said, a lot of this is 3D printed. So I'm sure there's still a significant amount of profit being had. It is what it is, but at least I'm not paying freaking retail $729 for just a cassette trigger. This is a mil-spec trigger with lightened trigger springs. Now, that's something we got to touch on as per the instructions in the box, which there were actually good instructions in the box, unlike all the other companies so far. Really appreciated that. The instructions in the box indicated they wanted you to cut a coil off of the firing pin spring. That really didn't sit right with me. I'm like, don't like that a whole lot. Let me try it without doing that, see if it works, and then go from there. At the range, the first mag out of the gate, I got bang, bang, click, no bang, click, no bang, click, no bang, light primer strike. So obviously I knew it needed to be cut. It's like a $6 part, so it is what it is. I brought it back, snipped one coil off of the spring, ran 100% for the rest of the range day. Now, simultaneously, I also wanted to try 147 grain flat nose for the very first time in this gun. Spoiler alert, each and every round of that flat nose was not working in this MP5 SD. It was not working. Now, this is an AP5 SD, and of course, that was the first time that I tried it. Was it the trigger? No, I don't think so, because I was having failures to feed primarily, or a failure to eject. I don't think that had anything to do with the trigger, because then in the same exact magazine, I would put the 115 grain MagTech that I've shot up until this point almost exclusively in this gun, and it ran 100% reliably. Now, the only thing I noticed, safety worked, everything worked just fine, but when you went from semi-automatic mode, so I'm in semi-automatic mode now, I got a reset, okay? It's gonna cycle again, reset, back to FRT mode. I don't know if it'll do it right now. No, it didn't do it. In actual live fire, there was a very crunchy, like it felt like the trigger was not working. Like I broke my trip bar. So I don't know what that was. All of a sudden I just squeezed it harder than normal and it started to work. FRTs are just weird. There's weird shit that goes on with FRTs all the time. And when you get into these, this has been circulating around on forums for years of people messing with super safeties. Everyone knows this for the most part, but now I'm getting firsthand experience with it. And again, that is why it's leading me to like, kind of gimmicky somewhat. But in my case, after I trimmed the coil and I had the standard ammunition that normally runs in this gun, I ran through 150 rounds with 0 issues. And let me tell you, it was a lot of fun. It was an absolute blast to shoot an AP5 SD in this super fast mode. It was absolutely incredible. Everyone that I handed it to, we were like, oh my God, this is giggle fun every single time. It is a gassy gun though. Oh my God. It is. Rarely do I struggle with that. It is so much gas that if you do a mag dump, you cannot see out of your right eye. I mean, it is brutally gassy. So just be ready for that. They do set you up. I mean, you got everything included in this at the price. Now you can get it with just the shell as well, which I don't know, that might be an option too. If you don't want like the super safe setup, you just want an AR trigger, this should in theory work. But this has a polymer, like 3D printed trip bar, super safety bar. And that I'm like, ooh, don't like that. I asked the general round count and they said usually about 1,000 to 2,000 rounds on these. They do make an aluminum variation, which is supposed to last indefinitely. Surprisingly, people won't like this, but this lasted longer than the Atrius setup did. So, I mean, there's that. And it's 3D printed, so I don't know. I don't really know what that means, but it means something. And you can see there, it is just an AR-15 fire control group, but with MP5 components. Now, I don't know if my more sporadic ejection pattern was because of the ejector here, just not being as good as the one that is in the factory fire control group. But what I will do is put in those 147s back into the gun with the original fire control group just to be sure and make sure it doesn't work, as I'm assuming, and go from there. They did put in a 3D printed buffer for the gun, and you need to make sure your locking piece is proper for suppressed use and high rates of fire, which in a full-size MP5, you should be pretty much good to go right out of the gate. But this is essentially a K because you have a short barrel under here that's ported. If you get the conversion done somewhere, they're going to put in that locking piece already, so you should be just fine. Again, I had to trim a coil, and they did send 2 slip trips, which essentially turn your MP5 bolt carrier group into an AR-15 bolt carrier tail, so it can work with your standard AR-15 fire control components. So the same thing that makes an FRT trigger work in an AR-15, they essentially just mimicked it here in the MP5, and that is how this thing operates. Those are 3D printed as well, and I'm like, They include 2 in the box, which is cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, there's 2 in there because they probably are prone to somewhat breaking as well, and I'm sure it would be a very, very expensive part to manufacture in metal. The folks over at L2 Prints seem super, super cool, so that was nice to see. I did have 0 malfunctions when I cut the coil on the firing pin. So I'm going to put many more rounds downrange with this and see just how reliable I can get it, especially with that 3D printed trip bar, and go from there. So I will keep you guys updated every step of the way. Make sure you read the instructions when you are installing this guy. I'm not going to go over that here on YouTube because of their frustrating policies, but thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay tuned for more great content coming soon.